right, I'm ready to talk football with Monica from Football is Sexy podcast. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joe. I am so excited to be on. You are one of my favorites. I've been following you a long time. I think you're amazing, and I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. I like to be a little noisy online, and looks like you're making some noise as well in an industry where there isn't too many females talking about football, and that's what's so refreshing about talking to you. I wish there was more, and it's nice to engage with somebody who's actually putting out content. Now, mind you, I knew a lot of females that watch football, just not a lot that I've seen producing content on an independent level, right? You're like a rare breed.
Ah, thank you. You know what? I appreciate that. Here's the deal. Like, I've been a diehard football fan my whole entire life, like many women out there. But I also felt like there was a space that was missing, and we're the first all women podcast, three or more, talking football. And I just thought that it was time for other women like myself. Because we're like the guys, man. We talk so much. I don't know. Can I say the word
Yeah,
ish? You know
yeah.
what I mean? We talk so much shit on texting and behind the scenes. And I'm like, you know what? I want that and I want to put it on film. And so thank God, I found two other crazy women like me, Sanaz and Mshay. And we film at the Ice House every Tuesday and we talk football all day long.
Yeah, even for fantasy, I wanna get more and more women involved in fantasy. I know a lot of them play. It's just not a lot of them are giving advice on it. Now, I was looking for a co-host, and my search was like I was trying to search for a good co-host. I couldn't find anybody, and anyone that I found, it was like, okay, well, it was like, I don't know. They were just like, I don't know what I can't explain. They're kinda into themselves. "Do this for me, do this." I just couldn't find somebody that was humble, down to earth, like, again, they're out there, but it's just so hard to find
Yeah.
someone that'll sit down and talk with me, with females. So I'm glad that you're doing this, a voice for women and a voice for everybody out there to have females talk about this. Now, again, I've seen it on a mainstream level to some degree. You have your like Aaron Andrews of the world out there, but I want to see it more and more on an independent level, which again is hard to find.
Right. No, and that's exactly, why I'm here and why I'm doing what I'm doing. And the Football is Sexy, was launched back in 2016, and my story was just on Fox Good Day LA, talking about how, my dad was a diehard 49er fan and he raised me as such. I always say, like, I feel like I grew up in Candlestick, Park. And it after he passed of cancer, we keep the tradition going. And I know a lot of fans out there are just like me, whether you're the dad that's bringing the kids up that way, or whether you're, the son or daughter who takes after their parents. And it just, I love football. Like, I can't even imagine what my life would be without football, right? And we go into a football depression when it's over.
Yeah.
I mean, and so many other women feel the same way I do, and that's why it was really important for me to start Football is Sexy. We have apparel. By the way, we have the first mobile app for avid fans and rookie fans, everything football all in one app, but it also teaches the game. There's no other app that has ever taught a sport. And I'm really, proud of that. And so the Football is Sexy is not just a podcast or on social media. We're big on Instagram, but it's also now a mobile app. And so and you get to change the colors of your team in the app. There's a lot of cool features. And man, this has been so much fun. And for someone like you who like lives and breathes football,
Yeah.
that's why I was like, when I found you, I was like, oh my God, that's my dude. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you're the guy version of me, just a little bit louder and you have bigger muscles. You know what I
Yeah, I like
mean?
I like to scream a lot. It's a lot of passion out there, and people don't realize how crazy and passionate I am when I'm talking. I'm actually, like, legit upset when somebody fumbles or someone does something on my fantasy team, like, I'm legit upset. So that screaming, some of it's like, yeah, it's a little bit of a WWE type
Yeah.
heel character, but it's more just I'm playing it up as well, and I'm actually genuinely angry and upset.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited to dive into this. Now I'm gonna actually put this out on both my fantasy football show and my Joe Khamou show because it's football related. So I want to have like a football discussion here, talk about some goats, talk about the current season, talk about some rules and regulations around the league that keep constantly changing and moving around
Mhm.
here. So much to talk about. Again, I love talking football. It's refreshing to talk to you about it because you live and breathe this too. But again, going back to your story here, again, I saw that you also sell a memoir. And then in there, I just read the back. I haven't read your memoir. It says something like you knew Tupac or something. Like, what's the story? Like,
Right.
What's the background story? Like, where you do you have a musical background? Can you sing?
Yeah.
Like, can you tell me kind of this quick snippet? Like, how do you know Tupac? Like, Tupac, what's the story?
Yeah. So the book is called The Next Quiet Voice. It's on Audible and Amazon. Right. So and it talks about my whole musical past. So you tapped into it. Besides, football, I have a whole musical past. There's this little show called Soul Train back in the day. You might have been too young to remember it, but I was on center stage on Soul Train, and that really started a musical career. I was a really good dancer back in my younger days, and I started out as choreographing, and then I ended up becoming a songwriter, and I just found myself um, putting back then a record deal together for myself. I wrote my songs. I wrote and produced my songs. Back then, there was this thing called cassettes,
Yeah,
and yeah, and then I managed myself, and I found myself in the rooms of Interscope Records with a guy named Mark Benish, and there was a record deal on the table, and oh man, what was it? That was a crazy time. But I basically was told that we're gonna sign you. Just hang on, and I hung on, and then the phone um, stopped being answered, and some things kind of felt weird, and I
right.
pretty much was promised a record deal, and the next thing I know, I get a call, and it was Mark Benish, and he goes, "Monica, I'm so sorry, we really wanted to sign you. I had a video and everything." He goes, "But um, we decided to go a different direction. We just got rid of all our pop acts." I was a pop act. That was like your Paula Abdul, Janet Jackson kind of artist.
Yeah.
And they said, "We decided to go with this thing called gangster rap, and it takes less promotion, and um, instead of signing you, we're gonna sign this guy named Tupac Shakur."
Wow.
So I lost my record deal to Tupac Shakur, and
Well, knock on wood, at least you're alive, and God forbid, I mean, who knows what coulda happened, like, you know what I mean? Like, everything kinda happens for a reason in my opinion, right? Like,
yep.
who knows, right? That's how I look at it, right? And now
Well,
you're behind the mic doing something that you love still, right?
100%. And as a matter of fact, the tagline to The Next Quiet Voice is how broken dreams can lead to spiritual freedom, and it absolutely talks about that. Had I gotten that record deal at that time where I was in my life, I honestly don't think I would be here today. And I say that, and I share this because maybe some of your listeners will know, but I'm a sober woman of 15 years today and counting, a day at a time. And it talks about how I think that record deal at that time of my life, I might not be here. You know, I was, I was a fun, I was a fun, it was a fun time in my life, but drugs and alcohol and fame at a young age,
Yeah.
it can be a recipe for disaster. So, but I do talk about, here's the funny thing on page, I think 335, and I wrote that book in 2000, I think 16 it was. And on page 335, I said, now that this book is done, maybe, and I talk about my time with Prince, by the way, Prince Roger Nelson, Rick James. I had a whole thing going on, but um, and it says that, but maybe after this book is done, I'll go back to what I really love and talk football like nobody else. And here I am. So I manifested this, Joe,
Yeah,
because
definitely.
football was my first love, and it still is to this day. So
And that's where I think you and I connected because when I grew up, I used to watch a lot of sports with my dad. Like that's what we did together. And it's nice that having a dad that is into sports, it kind of gets you into sports. And the nice thing about now, this greatest time to be alive is that we can now have a platform to get our voice out. And that's what I love about this time. We couldn't do this back in the 90s. Like you'd have to kind of go with the mainstream. And now we're able to create these platforms. And I've been able to disrupt. The nice thing about this, and again, I'm not trying to toot our own horns, is that we're disruptors, right? Like I'm
yeah.
disrupting the fantasy industry. Now I'm going to disrupt the sports talk industry, and you're disrupting this by being the all female cast football podcast. Very rare breeds, and that's how you succeed. You just got to disrupt an area and just do it better than everybody else. I love what you're doing. I love the look. I like the setup, and it looks like you're going positive. How long have you been doing this for? How long has football been sexy? Been out the studio, the whole thing? How long you guys been at this?
Yeah, so this is our first season
Wow.
in the studio, but I came up with the name and all of that back in 2016, which is, um, you know, my dad had passed in 2014, And it was also the year that Candlestick got demolished. So it was really like an end of an era for me. And losing my dad was just beyond painful. And I couldn't go to a game for 2 years. I just could not
Smart.
go.
Yeah.
A lot of people probably know that feeling. Like, it's beautiful because you feel close to them, but then there's that missing thing because your dad's not there. My dad and I used to talk before every game, halftime, and after the game. And then you don't have that anymore. But in 2016, I knew it was time to get back to what I love, and he would want me to go back. So I decided I was going to go to the opening game in Levi. And something told me, I'd always thought about this because I've always taught friends and family members the game. They always love my passion. There's always two things you knew about me growing up. I'm a diehard Prince fan, but I'm a diehard 49er fan, right?
Right.
And so all the women and the girls would be like, how do you know so much about football? I want to learn. And so all throughout my life, I would teach the sport. And they would love how I would teach it because I think they caught my passion. I would tell them about the behind stories of the players and why this game is a big deal, how he used to play for this team or his brother's on the other line, and they so I just taught the game. And so come 2016, I put it on Facebook, and I said, hey, I'm going to be at this pizza place from this time to this time. If you want to learn football, I'm going to teach it to you in a crash course. Well, 40 women showed up. And I don't do anything half-assed. So I had already had these T-shirts. These are the newer ones, but I had Football is Sexy tank tops made. I did a little playbook, and I broke the game down into 12 basic steps. And that's really when Football is Sexy was born. And then last year, life had gotten in the way, COVID and all this stuff, and all the stars aligned. And I decided to put that playbook of 10 lessons into 10 and put it in the app. And so here we are, a year and a half later from that trademarking everything and being full blown 24/7 Football is Sexy. I have an apparel line, I have the podcast with my girls, and I have the mobile app. And it's just been a dream come true to live my dream, man, because as you know, it's when it's in you, it's in you. It's like, and to see what's happening on our page, our social media is, I love that we have literally right down the middle, we've got like 53% of women, and the other is like all men. And I love that. I love that we're not exclusive to women. We are just women that talk football. Well, we're not exclusively. That's why you see my colors are gold and black. You know what I mean? We keep it sexy. We keep it sexy.
So one thing I try not to talk about is my age because especially with fantasy, if I'm like, let's say I'm 20 years old, I'm like, oh, I'm not taking advice from a 20-year-old. Then if I'm like 70 years old, I'm not taking advice from an old guy. They kind of judge you on your age. And I got a lot of haters. Don't get me wrong. Like the amount of hate I've got, you should see my DM. I've had death threats. It's been crazy. Long story short. And sometimes they don't realize that I'm kind of playing a character, this and that. But besides the fact, do you get a lot of hate? Like, I'm not taking advice from a girl. Like, have you gotten that yet? There must be some trolls in there that are hating, and I think it's because of their insecurities. To be honest, with all haters, it's they're lacking something. But how has the feedback been from guys? Has there been a lot of negativity, more positively, or kind of in between?
You would actually, I was prepared for everything, right? And I told the girls, hey, as a football fan, you have to have thick skin anyway,
Yeah.
right? Like, you just are born with thick skin if you're a football fan, right? But I have to be honest. I've only blocked probably 6 men and 1 woman,
Okay, that's not
which
bad.
is not bad. And we've
I've done
got
that. I've
almost
done that in an hour. I do that in
no.
like an hour.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and we have, I think we're up. I started with like 400 and we're up to like 31,000 followers right now. But I
Yeah.
will tell you this, um, all the women and the men have been so supportive. It's amazing. And I love that the men support us because, like you, we're just giving a different avenue. Like, we still talk football. And trust me, I get more hate for being a Niner fan than I do for being a woman.
For sure.
You know what I mean? But it's all love. Like, they don't unfollow us because they know I'm a diehard Niner fan. Everybody's represented on our page. Sanaz is a Charger fan. M. Shea is like a big Detroit fan. We've got all kinds of people. There's one of our girls, Dee Dee, is a diehard Steeler fan. She posts on a page. I like to collaborate with a lot of people, and I collaborate with you and Troy, who's I'm all about everybody being a fan and representing. So even though I'm a woman, it's just not exclusive. And the men have been great, and I get so many DMs, Joe, like you. I think we started talking through it. You're like,
Yeah.
hey, I love what you guys are doing,
Yeah.
and that meant the world to me. And I just have to say thank you for that, because I really wasn't sure how this would be accepted, but so far, man, it's literally all of my guys have our backs. And I think the reason why they have our backs, same with the women, is that we never pretend to be something that we're not. We
Right.
don't know everything. You can't know everything. There's 32 teams. There's 53 people on a roster. You've got your coaches, assistant coaches. You're never going to know it all. So we don't ever
No.
pretend. But what I can tell you, you can match my passion with anybody. Like, that's what I can tell you. You know what I mean? So I think people see our passion, and I think they see that we have fun and that we're just being authentic. And I think it's going well because of that.
That's the main thing. As long as like that's why I kind of stay away from the mainstream media. And to be honest with you, if the mainstream or ESPN came to me and said, "Hey, Joe, we want to have you on as an anchor," it just wouldn't work because I just can't be told what to do. I can't be restricted. I got to be myself. I got to be authentic and real. And I just can't be like, "Hey, man, that guy had a lackluster performance." No, the guy played like crap, played like shit. He sucked. Get over it. Like, I got to scream. I got to yell. I got to vent. I can't be limited to a suit and tie and just be told what to do. That just does not work for me. And again, it's a bit of an uphill battle as an independent because you don't get the exposure from the mainstream networks, and no one like I've had stuff that have gone viral and they just don't shout it out, and that's one that gives me more of a chip on my shoulder. Like I've had it out with NFL players like Josh Jacobs and Madison and Mecole Hardman. I've had it out with a lot of players when I call them out on their fantasy performance and they want to fight. So
Yeah.
that type of stuff is viral.
Yeah.
Like and yet no one reshares it. So I appreciate other independents. I think independents should come together more often to help build each other up and lift each other up for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't gotten into those yet. And I do not hold back on our podcast. I will say when my boys do good, I'm going to tell you my boys do good. But when they played like shit and I'm concerned, I'm going to say that too. You know what I mean? So I keep it real, not just with other teams, but my own team as well. I called for I wanted to, after we lost 3 in a row, I was like, okay, Kittle, Claire, George, you need to get the whole team, have them go to Nashville in your, ranch, and we need a big powwow. Like,
Yeah.
I will call it how I see it, whether it's my own team or not. But I'll also let you know when, Zach Wilson's not having a good game, and, whoever else, like, we have no problem in saying you played like shit. Like, it is what it is.
When he's banging somebody's mom or something like
Yeah, hey, I
that.
just brought that up today. I'm like, dude, at least he's not, but in his defense, she was hot.
Well, did I see her? I think I did see her. Yeah, I think I saw a picture. It was a while ago, but
Yeah,
yeah, I think she was not
yeah.
bad at all. Yeah.
Not bad at all. Yeah.
So let's get into some football talk right now. And 49ers, legendary team. I think you guys not finally, it's been a while, right? Like you had the Steve Young, you had Montana years ago, and then you had the Kaepernick, who had never really panned out to be amazing. You never really had somebody as of late, right? And then Brock Purdy comes in. And do you think he's the real deal for a long time?
I do. And I'm on record on my podcast saying, listen, first of all, my disclaimer is I have watched every 49er game since DirecTV allowed me to.
Right.
So I live in Southern California. So, my dad used to fly me up to the games. And then when I was old enough, I used to drive up to the games. I'd leave at 5:30 in the morning. I'd be in the stadium by 10:30, and I'd be home in bed by like 12, 1 o'clock. I would literally do a turnaround trip to go to the Niners in Candlestick, right? So all that being said, when I watched Brock Purdy, not just one game, 2 games, I'm like, this is our guy. This is our guy. And the reason why I say that, even after the 3 losses, is because the poise that he has in the pocket, the amount of respect that he literally like demanded in like day 1 in the huddle. I think
Yeah.
even George Kittle talked about it. Like he was like, "Hey guys, shh," in the huddle. And you're talking to like George Kittle. You're talking to like Deebo Samuel. He commanded that team and the respect from jump. And as far as like his ability, it's to me, it's literally like one of the best quarterbacks of recent that I've seen. I mean, don't forget we had the Alex Smith, just things didn't pan out. You know, I feel like he's our guy. And we know, look, Kyle he can call a great game. I think he's one of the best play callers in the game. And I know we get a lot of like, you just need to like be able to throw 5 yards here, 5 yards there, But with Brock, he can do it all. He can run when he needs to. He can throw it more than 10 yards. And that was the thing with Jimmy Garoppolo. Oh my God, that was a big, I'm telling you, the fan base was divided. Like, no Jimmy, yes, Jimmy. You
Yeah.
know, and I
No, he
don't
was
know.
never that great. He was never that good, you know?
I talk about that on my podcast a lot. Is listen, I think Jimmy's a nice guy. I love him, great person. All that being said, you got this thing when Jimmy was behind, was under center. You just always held your breath. You never knew what was about to happen. And you don't get that when an Aaron Rodgers is under center or a Tom Brady's under. You just don't get that. The feet would patter and you just be like, "Oh my God, like please
Yeah.
like," right? And I don't feel that way with Brock. I don't feel that way with Brock. And even though he had a few bad games and some INTs that was not, normal for him, I really do think he's our guy. And, for under $1 million, I'll take that all day long.
I love the underdog story, and I heard, like, I don't know, what's that story? They have, like, a store or something on weekends. They had a store and they shut it down.
Yeah.
His parents, what's the
Yeah.
store? What
His parents sell jacuzzis and
Oh, okay.
spas in Arizona, I think. And that's what I love about him too. He's humble. I'm all
Yeah.
about humble. He's a humble guy. He wears his little Kohl's outfits. I don't know if he shops at Kohl's, but it looks like his little khakis, and he has like a backpack. I don't think I've seen him in one Louis Vuitton or Christian Dior. I just don't think I've seen it. And I just love his vibe. And I'm so excited that he's healthy. I'm telling you, I mean, I had nightmares like everybody else about that Eagles game. I mean, I'm sure everybody last year wanted to see nothing more than the Eagles battle the Niners, match up. And then he got hurt, and it was a nightmare. And so I'm excited for December 3rd. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Niners Eagles in Philadelphia. That's going to say a lot. And I hope my boy shows up.
Now he seems like a humble guy, work ethic, but he's not getting the media attention. Let's talk about something flashy. Let's talk about media attention and the new face of the NFL. With Brady gone, who's a new face? Now, obviously, Mahomes is there, and I get it. And a lot of his flash comes from the wife, the brother, the people
Mm.
around him, this and that, right? The Taylor Swift stuff. But I personally, who I think should be the face, I want to get your opinion on who you think should be the face. The only problem is, again, he's just too nice of a guy, is Jalen Hurts, right? He's got the look, he's got the swagger,
Right.
he's got the personality. What I love about him and what I love about players like him is that you put your head down, you work, you got work ethic, you're humble, you're a good guy. CJ Stroud, another guy, faith
Yep.
guy, just really down to earth, put your head down. But do you think that's going to hinder him from being the face? Like, I think Jalen Hurts should be the face, but is his just being too nice of a guy, non-diva, non-Odell type style character, is that going to hinder him from being the face?
I I agree with you, by the way. I think kind of. I just think he's not enough. And to be honest, like Patrick Mahomes, like as a Niner fan, I have
Yeah.
nightmares about that too. um, but like I don't know how Patrick became the face, other than the fact that he is. I mean, he's put the numbers to be the face, right?
Yeah.
And then he's got everything around him. You've got the Andy Reid, you've got the Travis Kelce, and if they didn't have anything else and now they have the Taylor Swift, are you serious? Like, what else could you give this team, right? But the Jalen Hurts of the world, man, I think you're right. He just doesn't have enough of the personality. I think he's probably a little more quiet, faith-based guy. I don't know that he'll be the face of the NFL, but I don't know that he cares either, and that's what I like about him
Yeah.
even more. I don't
Doesn't
think he
care.
cares. I'll tell you what though, I love an underdog, right? And though I'm a diehard faithful, let's get that clear.
Yeah.
I love football and I love underdogs, and right now I am loving what CJ Stroud is bringing. I know
Yeah.
it's really only a few games, but I mean, if he can keep this up, I will not surprise me if he becomes the first MVP rookie since 1957 with Jim Brown. So
Wow.
yeah, I mean that's definitely a topic to watch. But it's so funny because what I love about football is we can be talking you up one week and then the next week I have the right to reserve and change my mind.
Yeah.
I was talking up, I forget, they were talking about Lamar, but then the next week Nobody's talking about him. And that's part of the NFL. Like one
Recency
week,
bias. There's too much recency bias, and that's with fantasy as well. One guy has a bad week, one week he's kind of forgotten, and then you only like he has one good week, and they jump on that guy, right?
yeah,
That's even with the sport card industry. A card was hot, like Trevor Lawrence cards were hot. It was like the hottest card going into the season, and now he's crapped the bed this
yeah.
entire season, played like absolute trash. We saw it against your 49ers
Yes.
last. Yes, well deserved. He deserves that guy should be booted for that. But anyway, but now he's just his stock is down. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
You know,
And the funny thing is, I remember everybody just a couple weeks ago was on the whole Lamar train, right? I
yeah,
was not. I was not. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm sorry. No, he's not going to be in the MVP race. Every time I finally like lock in and watch a whole game, I'm like, I must be bad luck for Lamar because when I watch him from beginning to end, I'm like, not impressed. He's turning the ball over. I don't know, but then there's so many Lamar fans out there. And that's also the cool thing about the sport is there's so many reasons to debate. Like you can say one thing and I can say another and we can both be right and it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? But I mean, as far as the QB, once Tom Brady retired, I mean, it's for the taking. Right now, probably Patrick's still,
a
that
fake.
guy.
Yeah.
But hey, that can change at any given Sunday.
It's such a league where there isn't like, I mean, you got how many people, how many 300 million people in the US, and there's only like 10 really good quarterbacks. It's such a hard position. That's why they get paid so much to get. You got to be like, I don't know, LeBron James type genetics to be, do you know what I mean? Like it's such a like
Yeah.
you're bringing Carson Wentz back to the Rams. Like it's weird when you see players that like Minshew's the starter for the Colts. Like it's such a thin position right now. To get a really good quarterback is something that's so hard to find. You have
We're getting
Desmond,
them from
yeah,
Division 2. We've got Tyson Beckett. I'm like, where did
yeah.
this guy come from?
Who
I
is he?
literally, I prepare for our podcast and I'm like looking at 6 names. I'm like, I have never heard of these guys. Like, I have never heard of these guys. Like,
DeVito. Who's the DeVito guy?
Tommy DeVito. You've got the guy before Kyler Murray started. I'm like, who's that guy? Now you have Josh Dobbs, who's like went from NASA to being an NFL. I'm like,
Clayton
who
Tune
are
was
these
the guy.
guys?
Clayton
Yeah.
Tune. I was thinking like Tiny Toons when I was a kid. Like what is it?
Aiden O'Connell. I'm like, who are these guys?
That's how desperate the league is to find a
Put
good
me
quarterback.
in. Put me in,
That's
Joe.
what
I
I'm
mean,
thinking.
you might as well. Like,
That's what I feel sometimes. I mean, it's so tight and they're so desperate. They're so needy for quarterbacks. It's unbelievable. So when you got one, you got to lock them in. But sometimes you lock one in and it's like, oh my God, I wasted all this money. I remember years ago with the Eagles when they locked in Carson Wentz for 128 mil. I went on, I said, Carson Wentz sucks. It's a waste of money. Eagles fans came at me. They wanted to rip my throat out.
yeah.
And then I was right because there's guys that you can tell they've got the it factor. And I don't know if Brock's got it, but I feel like he could. Like I feel like he's like maybe like that Jared Goff or slightly better upside type player, right? You got your upper guys, you got your Hurts, you got your Mahomes, guys like that, your Josh Allens, and after that, it's like your Jared Goffs, Kirk Cousins kind of thing, the mid tier guys. I think he could have that upside, Brock Purdy. So I think in a league where it's so hard to find a good quarterback in this world, and you got something special, I think, with him for sure.
Well, I agree. And his story is amazing. But also, you have to remember, we come from Joe Montana, right?
Yeah,
And
spoiled.
we're spoiled, right? And to be honest, even though we haven't won a Super Bowl in like, oh my God, like 25 years or whatever that is, 95, 96,
Yeah,
um, that Joe Montana thing is not to be played with, right? And we haven't had that other than obviously we had our Steve Young days and that was great. But this guy, mind you, I've watched every single game from beginning to end. And he's just got a confidence, a quiet confidence, but he's serious. That's what I
yeah.
like about him. There's not a flash. He's serious. And I don't and that's for me as a 49er faithful. I love that he doesn't talk a lot. I love that he comes out, he does his job and he goes home. He doesn't make it about him. And I really love humble quarterbacks like that. And Jalen Hurts, I would think,
That's why I
he's
like
kind of like
Hurts.
that too.
I like
You
Stroud
know,
as well. And
I
yeah, so going back, I mean, Jalen Hurts, I mean, he is your typical quarterback that I like. And the guys that I dislike are like the Johnny Manziels, or show me the money,
yeah,
the arrogance stuff. It doesn't go well with me. I don't like that.
no. And the thing is, I always think, who are these guys? Like, talk to these guys because I'm telling you, you can be here 1 minute and you can be right back down the next. So it just is in everyone's best interest that you being the head of the face of the franchise. If I'm the owner or if I'm the coach, I'd be like, bro, keep it together, one game at a time, like one quarter at a time. You know what I mean? Like, and I would want my guy, like you have, the Dak Prescott, poor guy. Like, here's a guy that no matter what he does, he is just under major scrutiny. And I think he handles it well, though.
Tony
I think,
Romo went through that same thing. Tony Romo,
oh,
he couldn't do anything. They just Cowboys can't
oh,
fans are ruthless. They're
oh,
ruthless.
ruthless. We seriously, like, we can be really ruthless, and you have to have thick skin in this world, but especially in the world of football, especially if you're going to be the face of the franchise, you
Yeah.
know? So, yeah.
So let's talk in like a minute or less. Why? Because we had this talk before. Why is Joe Montana the greatest of all time? I want to hear your perspective. Can you give me a compelling case in under a minute or less why Joe Montana is the GOAT? Because you said he was the GOAT prior that we started recording.
4 Super Bowls, no losses, and with the rules being what they were back then, humble and beyond accurate. And I, to me, and I know everybody always says, the GOAT is Tom. Sorry, I don't agree. Not just because I'm a Niner fan, but I look at, some of those rings that he has, I look at as complete failures. Kyle Shanahan being one of them, when he played, what was it, with the Falcons, when they were up by like 20 plus points. And
Right.
I don't give that one to him. I don't give the Seahawks Super Bowl to him. So now I'm down to 5 Super Bowls. So you know what I mean? I just
Right.
his team got so lucky so many times in the Super Bowl, and I just don't give it to him. I just don't. And don't get me wrong, like I respect what he's done for the game. I think he's definitely one of the best players that we'll probably ever see in my lifetime. But as the GOAT and as a Niner fan, I'm going to tell you Joe Montana all day long. And for the simple fact that he never lost a Super Bowl, and they didn't protect the quarterbacks the way they do now.
You mean
I mean,
they didn't baby them like they
no.
are right now?
Oh God. Oh, and Tom, let's be honest. Like every time he got hit, you get a call flag, dude. Seriously, and I'll make Joe the GOAT just for the catch alone. Like done. There's the GOAT. Like mic drop. Him to Dwight Clark, and my dad was there for the game, by the way. So for
I don't
me,
want I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but it seems like the fix is in now. I had Brian Toohey on. We talked about the fixes in. I'll link that below as well on is the NFL fixed? Are sports fixed? And I don't know. It just keeps getting worse and worse and almost more obvious now because of some of the refs and maybe just maybe to add to your case, I think Brady had some refs in his pocket a couple games there.
I mean, I don't know that it's going to be completely fixed,
No, not
but
completely.
but I think there definitely is a bias. And I think that, there are certain teams that they would rather in the Super Bowl. There are certain teams that they would rather,
Of course.
they want to win, and it all comes to dollars, as we know. Um, so I think Brady had a lot of calls go his way. Just like I think, some of the other calls on some of the other teams right now are going their way. But I always say this, like, if I was a coach, I would be like, listen, guys, I don't want to hear we lost the game because of the refs. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
Here's like, you have to be in this league, you need to be up 21-28 to feel comfortable. Not even then. Like, you can't leave it in the refs' hands. And right now with some of these teams, you can't give them 48 seconds. You
Yeah.
just can't. So you have to play a full game, both sides of the ball, special teams. It has to be, a team win where you can't have it come. Look we had 5 walk-offs this week.
Yeah.
6, I think now, counting Monday night. You know what I mean? Like, you just can't have that. I mean, I lost some bets because, the Seahawks pulled it out in the last, field goal. And like, you just can't.
Something's up, and that's what we explain. He's analyzed this. Something's
Ugh.
up. Certain games, there's obviously a script. They want it to go a certain way for sure. Definitely. So there's some factors there as well. And just sticking on that topic a little bit on getting soft, I'm all about protecting the players and the concussions, but I see players come down and it's like it doesn't look that serious. They got a helmet on. they walk off, thumbs up, and they're out for concussion protocol. So, and even with the quarterbacks and how when they get hit by linebacker, whoever's rushing, right, pass rush, they go down. Now I got to like take my body off the quarterback. Again, it just
Yeah.
seems like it gets softer and softer. While I'm all about protecting the head as much as you can,
Right.
increasing the longevity. But it is football, guys, and you are wearing a helmet. Your head didn't even hit the floor that hard. Why are you completely out of the game? Like again, that's my problem right now. It's getting too soft from that perspective.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna change though, my friend. I just think there's just too much in the world right now where eyes are on everything, to be honest. And I think after what happened with Damar Hamlin,
Yeah,
the CTE thing is a real thing. I think they're gonna be extra careful. And as a Bosa or Chase Young, Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett, who's killing it right now. You talk about these guys. I feel bad for them because they have to be careful, the way you fall on the quarterback could be, a 15-yard penalty.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And that's why I say Joe Montana's the GOAT because you didn't have that
no.
protection back then. You just didn't. So
I'm gonna go back and watch a couple of those games and really study the tape. I haven't gone back and watched those, but it'd be interesting to see how much pressure he was under back then, what a beating he took. But those guys were gritty. Even Brett Favre, all those guys back in the
yep,
old days, just gritty, tough guys. The game was a lot tougher.
yep,
Okay, let's talk. Since it's football is sexy, let's talk about this recent thing that's happened. Jason Kelce rated sexiest man, an athlete or something like that. I want
yeah,
to talk about this. Okay, I'm not into guys like that, but I can tell if a guy is good looking. I'm
yeah,
gonna probably, if there's an athlete, I'm probably gonna give it to Jalen Hurts. Again, go back to the Jalen Hurts thing again.
yeah. Good
Again,
looking dude.
he's a
Yeah,
good-looking dude. Like, I can
yeah,
tell. I can
yeah.
tell. But
Right.
Jason Kelce, come on. I mean, it
Yeah,
seems like you just keep building up the Kelce brothers and building them up and shoving them down our throats. I'm not interested. If you
right.
want to pick the sexiest athlete, why don't we really pick the second? Give it to Jimmy G. Give it to Jalen Hurts. Give it to someone even like a Derek Carr, someone like that. Why are we giving it to Jason Kelce? Do you agree? Is he the sexiest athlete out there? Please, honestly.
Well, okay. First of all, I think sexy. Okay, so football is sexy. I named it this because the knowledge of the game is sexy. That's why football is sexy. I think when I would ever go to a restaurant or a bar or something like that, and I would start talking sports, all of a sudden I had all kinds of guys and girls around me because I think the knowledge is sexy, right?
Yeah,
You can join the conversation. It's just sexy. So as far as Jason goes, I think what people love about him is his personality. And because of his New Heights podcast,
right.
I think people really I kind of am happy about it because the O line they don't get a lot of love,
Yeah,
right? And it's always the Patrick Mahomes, the Jalen Hurts, the Jimmy G, Tom Brady. So I think it's good to have somebody that's not those guys or those type of guys, you know what I mean? So, and Jason Kelce just seems like a good dude, good dad. I love that he loves his mom. And to be honest, I was more sick of Travis
yeah,
than I
yeah.
was about Taylor. I'm like, I don't mind hearing about Taylor. I'm so sick of hearing about Travis. It's like, you know what I mean?
Is
It's
that
like he's on
is that
every
really
commercial too, on top of
is
it all.
Is that relationship genuine, or do you think this is another build a script, build around the Chiefs Super Bowl? Do you think it's a genuine relationship? Because he went to Germany. She never came with him. Now, mind you,
Argentina.
no, but I think he had a Germany game,
Oh,
she never went to that, but I think he went to Argentina. I don't know, man. I'm sick of this down my throat as well with
yeah.
watching these guys, and then they're kissing by the sideline, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, okay, do you think this is genuinely real, or do you think this is like a fake thing?
You know, um, I'll just put it to you this way.
Yeah,
Last season, I was getting annoyed being a woman football fan that every player going in and out of the locker room during preseason, camp, all of it, they would put this little microphone and shove it in one of the players' face and be like, "What's your favorite Taylor Swift song?" And it pissed me off, to be honest, because I felt then, oh, now I know that you guys want the women to follow you, NFL. I hear you. I see
yeah,
that. We all know that. You want more women fans. Okay. But shoving a little microphone down a player's throat going, "What's your favorite Taylor Swift song?" is not the way to
right.
do it. It
No,
pissed me off.
right.
Granted, and here I am because I created football sexy because it pissed me off. Not because, but it just kind of happened organically. But my point to that is, and now a season later, right? Now she's dating, you know, one of the biggest football players in the league. Was it an accident? I don't know. I don't think I don't think Taylor needs anyone or anything, but it sure didn't help. I mean, it sure didn't hurt, right? Her movie was coming out. By the way, I love Taylor Swift. Let me just say that right now. As a songwriter, musician, like I love Taylor. She's one of the best songwriters, and everything she's done is absolutely amazing. So that's that. And so she's also a smart woman too, right? So it doesn't hurt anybody's career unless if Travis dumps her, he's screwed. He's
Yeah,
screwed.
that's a
He
good
is
point.
screwed. And we talk about it on the podcast all the time. Like he cannot dump her and he cannot cheat on her. He will not know the wrath that hit him. So he really should have thought this through because if you don't marry Taylor and have 5 kids and you're on a porch in Nashville swinging and retired, you're going to be screwed, my friend.
It's gonna tarnish your reputation, and again, I don't follow too much of this
Those
pop
Swifty
culture.
fans don't play, Joe. They don't play.
I see, I don't know. I don't know too much about it. Like, I don't
Yeah.
follow her. I don't know. But obviously, she's got to be very smart to have gotten the success that she's gotten. And she must have an amazing team around her. She's an entrepreneur, 100,000%. A good one, a great one too, right? But
She's
again,
amazing.
I just don't know. I just don't know if this is gonna last. I don't know if it's real. Do you think it's like, I don't think it's real. I don't
So
know.
I will say this.
Genuine?
I have a lot of people behind the scenes that know things, right? As you probably do, I do
Yeah.
too. And one of them said, when I asked somebody else that question, this is like a media publicist. He said to me, Monica, when they first were shown, when she first went to the Chiefs game, he said, all the security and all this. And I said, yeah. And he goes, but he said, but you saw footage of them leaving together in the stadium, like right after he left the locker room.
Right.
And I said, yeah. And he goes, who had access to that? Who was behind the camera? Nobody ever asked who was behind the camera. And I was like, oh, good point.
Mm.
Probably the NFL.
Yeah.
So who knows? I will say this. I love Taylor Swift and I'm really happy to see her happy. She's gone through a lot. And people are gonna be what they are and say what they say. But you know what? That woman is now one of the most celebrated women in music and she works her ass off. And I'm happy for her. And if there's a little bit of love for her, good for her. Good for her. And you know what, Travis? I don't know him. These are my disclaimers, but I have a feeling that I think he likes what she comes with. I think he's
Yeah.
one of those kind of guys that he likes that she's who she is. And you never know. You never know.
The narcissist comes out and, and he's just like, yeah, all this attention. I think he grew. I think he had like just over 1 million followers. Now he's up just under 5 million.
Oh yeah. It went nuts. Yeah.
It was wild.
Yeah. And by the way, Football is Sexy was started before the whole Swiftie thing. I
Yeah.
think that the Swifties are looking for us because we talk and teach football. So we're for avid fans and rookie fans. So if you want to learn a little bit about football, they should come to our page. They should come to our podcast because we just talk football in a different way where we actually like we'll explain what RB1 is, in the middle of the podcast organically. So if people just, send like a lot of people will be like, oh, my girlfriend or boyfriend. And trust me, there's guys out there that don't know football on the DL will message me and be like, I'm so glad you guys are here because I'm learning. I love what you guys are doing, but I didn't want to tell, my family that I don't really know much about football, but I'm following you guys. So it's really cool. We have avid fans, new fans, men, women. I'm having a blast,
Well, I want to get you back on as we get closer to the playoffs. I want to get you back on. Let's talk playoffs as that time comes out. Super Bowl predictions. Have you
Yes.
back on? Just talk. And again, I'm going to put this out on my fantasy football channel. Make sure you guys are subscribed to my Joe Khamou show as well, the talk show aspect. And I just want to wrap it up here. But again, go follow Football is Sexy. I love what you're doing. I commend you. I'm glad we had some talks here. Again, the main thing is keep going, keep the entrepreneurial venture going, and make more women aware. And hopefully, this brings more females not only to just football but to fantasy football as well.
Right.
Because I've talked to a lot of women, they're like, "Hey, I want to play, but I don't know
Yeah.
how to play, or like I don't have a league. What do I do?"
Well,
Maybe you should do some more fantasy stuff too.
we're gonna start doing fantasy Fridays. Sanaz is part of my squad. She kills her fantasy football league all the time. In our mobile app, we teach the game also. So my goal is to have fantasy football by next season. Please subscribe to
Yeah,
our podcast on our
I'll link
YouTube
it below.
channel.
I'll link it below too.
Yeah, link it below. But again, like learning the game is not easy,
No,
but if you download the app, I think you'll see that we did a pretty good job of teaching it in a fun way. There's some fun trivia questions. There's a sexy glossary. So if you don't even understand like a word, you can literally type it in and my version of that definition comes up. It's not even, I literally typed out every definition myself. So it's really fun and I'm having a great time. So yeah, I'd love to come back and let's talk more football and playoffs and Super Bowl. And hey, I got to ask you, can I ask you a question?
sure.
Who do you think is going to be in the big game?
I don't
As of
know.
right now, week 10's in the books. We're going into week 11. If you were a betting
I'm
guy,
I'm taking a look at this day. The thing is, I'm not good at this because I try to go for the fix. Like I'm like, who's going to be the fix? So Miami, I'm just pulling up the stats here. Miami looks good. I think they're a contender. I don't know if Buffalo. They've kind of proven that they're kind of fool's gold. Now they just fired their offensive coordinator, which is going to help them. I
Buffalo is not going to be in.
No, I don't think so. Chiefs and Miami, I think on the AFC end, right? Those are my picks again as of right now. And then I think the Eagles. I still think that the Kelce Bowl is still a possibility. Detroit's making a run. I'm loving the way Detroit looks. 49ers again with that little run of their losses. I don't know if they're fool's gold, but the way they just dismantled Jacksonville like they were nothing, that gives me optimism. So I think San Fran can make a run if they keep a good head on their shoulders and keep pushing and everybody stays healthy because I know they've suffered with injuries as of past couple of years. So yeah, those are kind of the teams I like, 49ers, Miami, Chiefs, Eagles, that type of thing. But it's still early to tell. Anything can happen.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Hashtag stay healthy, right?
Yeah,
That's always the thing. But I'll tell you right now, if our team stays as they are right at this moment,
right.
we're gonna take it. I mean, quest for 6, baby. The Niners bring home the trophy. I
It's
said it.
a
I
little
see
biased.
it.
It's a little biased.
I'm not biased at all. I'm just saying that we
No,
I
they're
can't
good.
wait.
They're a good team
I'm
this year.
dude, you have Chase Young, you have Nick Bosa meeting at the quarterback. I put that meme up. I'm probably showing my age. There was a song back in the day called Meeting in the Ladies Room, and I changed it to Meeting at the Quarterback because that's what Chase and Bosa are going to do. They're going to meet at the quarterback. We've got Fred Warner, we've got Hal we've got, I mean, on both sides of the ball, we are just, as long as we stay healthy.
Okay. We're gonna come back and talk. We're gonna
All
readdress this
right.
as we get some playoff
I'm
talk.
on record. I'm on record.
Let's win the let's make the playoffs, and then after that, let's win the first round. Then we'll talk.
All right. Sounds
All
good.
right, guys. Football sexy. Go follow her. Monica. Pleasure having you. We'll get you on again. And yeah, I love what you're doing. And we'll talk soon. Thanks, guys.
Likewise, my friend. Thank you so much. You are so much fun to watch, and I'm glad to be on here. I'll see you soon.
Thanks. We'll talk soon, guys. We're out.